That's what Bruce just said.
Oh, well, great minds.
Not voting on it. Look, can I see you hit the guy? Well, it wasn't matter. My wife and me and her business partner.
I don't think we're on the record. Are we on? Okay, we are back on the record at 7:08. You're ready? Okay, great. All right, the next and final application that I'm calling this evening is application 2022-24. This is 950 Mountain Avenue, block 3901, lot 2, preliminary and final site plan request with a variance, bulk variance is, and a, I think is it a use? It's a D3, conditional use, right? Okay, Mr. Hale. Good evening.
Good evening.
Again.
I told you weren't getting me that quickly, so great to see you all again. Appreciate, again, the board's efforts in hearing these matters, and we appreciate Jen sending over the reports from your board professionals. And yes, Madam Chairwoman, this is an application we're before this board because restaurant uses in this zone are conditional uses. There's 4 conditions. We meet 3 out of the 4. The 4th we don't meet is parking. Again, sure, if you hadn't been to Marino's, knows about Marino's. It was a seafood establishment for many, many years. I know I talked to Mr. Disco. Over the years, even though there apparently was no zoning approval, it morphed into a restaurant. We have some photographs showing that, the menu and the like, certainly a more extensive menu even than Beach Taco. But my client is excited to be, hopefully become a member of the business community here in Springfield. He's actually purchased the property already and is looking to transform it to a Beach Taco restaurant. Again, we'll have testimony that will support the conditional use variance that we're seeking. Feel that the parking is going to be more than adequate with the nature of the business. We do have a few bulk variances associated with the application. Most of them are existing conditions. We are looking to put, and you'll see our architect did a nice job. You've probably seen the plans. You see some renderings. Nice little pergola out front. I know there was seating for Marino's out front, several tables, and actually more tables than we're even proposing. But again, we have received the reports from both Mr. Disco and Ms. Sarmon. We don't have any problem addressing those items. We are actually, even though I'll tell you, one of the items is we're slightly increasing impervious, but that's because we're bringing into the site into compliance with the ADA requirements. Again, it seems that over the years there may have been site work there that didn't get approvals, but again, we're looking to enhance the site both from an operational standpoint and otherwise. And it's a great adaptive reuse of this building. It's been closed down. Marino's moved, I think, Berkeley Heights, originally in, I think, part of the Hillside Seafood years ago, and then moved to Springfield and then moved out. And Mr. Glenn took it upon himself to purchase the property, and again, is very excited to be here this evening. What I'd like to do first, if there's no preliminary questions, is to have our site engineer take us through the existing conditions and then what's proposed by way of improvements. So Millis Looney is here. And I think, Jen, where are you? I'm back here. Oh, I think there's a mic.
Yeah, I will.
Oh, yeah. How smart. Okay. Council will swear you in now.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, and give us your business address.
Millis J. Looney, Looney, Van Cleef Engineering, 1705 Route 37 East in Island Heights.
Thank you.
And Ms. Looney, if you could please give the board the benefit of your work, educational experience, area of expertise, licenses you hold, and whether you've been accepted as a professional engineer before their boards or courts of the state of New Jersey.
I received my Bachelor of Science from Rutgers College of Engineering and Civil Engineering. I've had had my PE license in New Jersey for over 30 years. I also am a certified municipal engineer. I've testified throughout the state at numerous boards. I can give you an example of some, or like I said, I've been doing it for 30 years.
Is your license current and good standing?
Yes.
Any members have any objection to qualifying Ms. Looney as a expert in engineering?
Thank you.
Great. So first, just a little background and take us through, as I said, is existing conditions and then what's proposed by way of improvements. If you're going to introduce any exhibits that were not previously submitted, we'll have to mark them.
Okay, what we have here is an aerial. I'd like to have this marked A1. This shows the site and the surrounding area. What we have is that the location is on the east side of Mountain Avenue. It's in the highway commercial zone. Currently on site is a...
Before you get too far ahead, it's a little difficult for us on this side to see. If we can burden you to turn that, we can hear you wonderfully.
You're fine. We just can't see what you're pointing to.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
As I start on the east side of Mountain Avenue is in the highway commercial zone. Currently on site is the location of the old Marino Seafood and Restaurant. Access to the site from Mountain Avenue is on the north side. It's a two-way ingress and egress. We have a park in the back. There's a handicap spot in the back that is just not up to code. We do plan on bringing that up to code. Currently, the lighting on site is not very good. What you have is spotlights around the building. They're very bright, and they don't provide sufficient lighting for the site. So there's stormwater that is collected in the rear here. You can see the dark pavement. What has happened is there have been some repairs there. There's recharge manholes, and then what happens is there's a manhole that will pump the excess water onto Mountain Avenue. There's a drain that goes through the curb on Mountain Avenue, which takes care of all the stormwater in the back. That happens to be the low point on site. I want to point out that the site will continue functioning as it did with Marinos, that being the two-way access and the parking in the rear. Now what I have shown is from the site plan, and this is sheet number 3 of 5. It is the site improvement plan. And what you can see on here is what...
Excuse me, and that's a mounted version of the plans that were submitted?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. This was submitted to the board. What we're proposing to do is use the existing vacant building. We will be upgrading the parking in the rear, bringing the handicap parking spot up to ADA compliance. That means we're going to be expanding the pavement, adding a handicap sign. We'll be putting in a overhang over the building, if you will, which will contain all the recessed lighting. The lighting will be improved drastically over the site, making it a much safer situation for people walking, parking, just a much better situation. As part of the application, there are some nonconformities at this point that will remain. So we are requesting 2 additional variances. The one variance is a front yard setback where 35 feet is required, and we're providing 18.43, and that's to the pergola. And when the architect gets up, you will see it makes the building so much aesthetically more pleasing. You're going to be like, wow, it's just a really big deal. And then the other variance, excuse me, is for the lot coverage. 63% is allowed. Currently, we exceed that. We're at 77%, and we're going to be going up a little bit more to 83%. And that's because of the patio pavers that will be underneath the pergola, and also for the expansion of the parking lot in the back to make that handicap parking spot come up to ADA compliance. Now, as Mr. Hall had mentioned, restaurants are a conditional use in the zone. We meet 3 out of the 4 conditions. The 3 conditions that we meet are that we are providing an exhaust fan, we are not providing any live entertainment, and we are providing a grease trap. The only condition we don't meet is for the parking, where 23 spaces are required and 8 are proposed. However, I'd like to put in evidence, not in evidence, but to state that we are, our utilization is much less intense than the Marino seafood restaurant that was there. We are providing 12 seats inside for dining, 6 seats outside. There will be testimony after me showing that the amount of seats that were in Marino's were 36, 40, 50 seats, where we are only providing, like I said, 12 seats. Okay, talked about the 2 variances. Like I said, there are some nonconformities that exist that will remain, but I believe that the benefits of the proposed project make it a much better situation. We are utilizing an existing vacant building. The pergola will increase the aesthetics from the street view. The under canopy lighting around the building will provide increased level of lighting throughout the parking area, thus increasing the safety than the way it is now. And the existing handicap space will be squared off and brought up to ADA requirements. In addition, I know Mr. Disco's letter, he questioned landscaping. What we there's really not any place on site that we provide landscaping other than the front. We don't want to block the building, so we propose low-level landscaping in front of the pergola.
Okay. And you've had an opportunity, I know, because we reviewed them, to review Mr. Disco's report.
Yes.
And the review report from Ms. Selma from Harbor Consultants?
Yes.
Okay. Any problem complying with any of those terms and conditions? No. And I know we also did receive in a letter from the county. They were more technical by way of comments, I think with respect to some curbing and I think the curb cuts or sidewalks,
Yeah,
which we'll address with the county if you could.
Right. We'll work with them to perfect their approval.
All right. I have no further preliminary questions of Ms. Linney at this time.
Okay. Questions from the board? Thank you.
I have one question. Is the lot going to be repaved or just repaired?
We have no plans to do it either at this point. Is there something you would recommend?
No, just that there was on the thing that says that there was some saw cuts on the pavement and stuff. I don't know if that's just going to be.
You mean what's out there now, where they did the repairs for
Right.
the stormwater? No, that has been repaired and that's flush.
Okay.
So that's satisfactory the way it is.
I'm just curious as to whether you're repaving or not.
Just clarifying. The parking requirement is what?
23,
And your proposal is 8?
right.
Okay.
That's what's existing now, that's what we're keeping.
Okay.
Although Springfield does have in our plan, we'll touch on it, the double criteria. I think we meet it for the seating, but not for the square footage.
Okay. Forward to hearing that.
To what extent is your business to be takeout as opposed to eat-in?
Mr. Glenn is going to touch on that when he talks about the operation of the business, but and you'll hear him because we had extensive prep meetings. It's probably just going to, over time, see how it works. He does have other locations, and again, that's what brought him to Springfield. But yeah, they do both.
And I'm just wondering about that from a parking perspective. Whether there would be increased traffic because of takeout business.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to address that.
Something that your witness is not prepared to address.
Correct. Between Mr. Glenn and our planner.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public for this witness? Oh, our professionals. I'm sorry.
I really don't have any engineering issues. I guess the owner, when they were selling the place or contemplating the sale 2 years ago, there was a problem with the drainage in the back. The water would just sit there and ice where the handicap spot was. They basically doubled the seepage pit size, and certainly accommodates the minor increase that's proposed as part of the handicap space. So they've addressed it already.
Thank you.
My only question is, do you have a breakdown of the increase of impervious coverage in the area where the pergola is proposed, and then also in the area where the handicap spot is being remediated?
It's 50 square feet for the handicap area, I know that.
Okay. the total difference, excuse me, I think works out to be 487 and a half or so. So about
50 is from the, for the handicap.
okay, so about 430 for the seating area in the front. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, now any members of the public have any questions? None. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next
Yes, I now like to call upon our architect, Ivano Marjolanda.
Good evening.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, give us your office address.
My name is Ivano Marulanda. Last name is Marulanda. I'm a licensed architect, and my office address is 1045 East Jersey Street, Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Thank you.
All right, and if you could give the board the benefit of your work, educational experience, area of expertise, and confirm your license in full force and effect.
Sure. I graduated from Universidad del Valle in Colombia. I've been working for James Aguera PA for over 21 years. I am licensed in New Jersey. My license is current. And I have testified before other boards in Elizabeth, Piscataway, Roselle, Fanwood, Springfield, Raritan, and Scotch Plains.
Thank you. Any members of the board have any objections to qualifying an expert in architecture? You're qualified.
Thank you.
All right, so if you can take us through how you're looking to work with Mr. Glynn to renovate this establishment.
Okay. So I'd like to go over sheet A100. This is the same sheet that was on your package. On sheet A100, we're showing the first floor plan and the roof plan. The street, Mountain Avenue, is on the left side of the building, on the left side of the sheet. And what we're proposing is a small 18-seat restaurant where we have 12 seats inside and we have 6 seats on the outside. On the outside is where we're proposing a pergola that is additional to what right now doesn't exist. So we have a low wall as a front, and then we have a wood pergola that covers the 6 seats. It's very open, so it's really not enclosed. So low wall, and then you just have wood members that all they do is in the summer months, you'll give some shade to anybody that's dining on that front area. Inside the restaurant, there's very little change. New counters, new fixtures, new equipment, but the layout's pretty much the same as it was, and we're reducing the amount of tables to just 12 chairs inside. Any mechanical requirement regarding the hood and the grease traps will be met. Will meet any requirement from the building inspector. They're existing, but if anything needs to be repaired or added, we'll do that. And like I said, there's no live entertainment. It's just the 12 seats inside and 6 outside. Now I'd like to go to sheet G200. Again, it's the same sheet that you have on your package. Here we're showing the elevations that we're proposing. Here we have the front elevations. This one is without pergola, so it's like close to the building. This one we're backing a little bit so we can see the pergola there. And as you can see, it's not covered. We're basically putting 5 columns in front, low wall, so you still see through, very open. We also show the rear elevation and the right and left elevation. I am sorry, there is a mistake on the elevations. Where we show the awning, it's actually supposed to be on the right elevation. Awning will not be on the driveway side, which is the right elevation. So this is actually inverted.
Say that again, please.
Yes.
Say that again.
One more time.
please.
Okay. So we're showing the awning on the left elevation, but it's actually going to be on the right elevation.
Our client was concerned that if you had an awning there, it might get hit by a truck or something like that.
Yeah, we don't want the awning on the driveway side, which is the left
Okay.
The awning exists on on the left elevation, or on the right elevation
The
currently?
awning exists on the right elevation, so we're just basically putting a new awning as it was with the new name on the right elevation, yes. We're not proposing any new awnings on the left elevation where there is none. To material, so we're proposing a new terracotta mansard parapet all around the 4 sides. We're going to stucco the whole building, all 4 sides. We're keeping the glass entrance and replacing the awning on the front that is there. The windows in the front, they're going to be removed and they're going to be replaced by a bigger opening. It's a slider glass and metal door that can go up.
That garage door style?
Exactly, garage style. So when it's a nice weather, you know, they can be all open. So it's only be open seasonally when it's good outside. And then here you see the proposed pergola area. So we're putting a low wall stone, some wood columns, and then a pergola. So it's open, it's not closed, but it provides shades when you're dining there in summer. Rear elevation, pretty much the same. We're just replacing this existing sign. Right now there's a metal door there, so we're putting a new glass door and just providing the awning so that people see that that's the entrance. You don't go all the way around to the front. You can enter from the rear entrance, and so we have an awning that shows that that's the entrance. And then on the sides, we're just decorating a little more with some wood shutters on each side. You know, to give more kind of elements to the building all around.
I assume it'll all be brought up to code.
That is correct. We'll meet with any construction of code.
And from an architectural, I don't know if your architectural standpoint, any problem with the review letters that were issued?
No, we can meet with anything on the letters.
I have a question. Any idea what the planned hours of operation are?
Yep. Mr. Glenn will testify as to that, but I can offer approximately 10:30 to 10, and then maybe Saturdays 11.
As in PM?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I know you touched on the material, but what about like the coloring? What is the building gonna?
The color, it's more like an earth color on the outside of the stucco that will be painted like mustard, but not yellow mustard. You know, more onto the darker side of it.
Okay, and stone is just like.
The stone will be again another earth tone brown. I would say the brown tones on the outside. You know, any strange colors, wall colors, no. Just earth tones.
How are the signs on the building going to be illuminated?
The exterior lighting. I think exterior lighting for the signs.
How will the signs be illuminated? Is the question.
Externally illuminated?
Externally, yeah. The same lighting that is actually doing the parking will illuminate the signs.
I just want to make sure, do you have anything else before we continue our questions?
And by the way, just to clarify, and Mr. Glenn, there'll be no entertainment, no heaters outside, no music, just, again, seating.
Are they serving alcohol?
No. No.
What's the rationale as to a wood pergola versus like a PVC or a vinyl? And I ask because wood tends to deteriorate over time with rain and the elements.
Yeah, it could be a wood textured vinyl. Yeah, it could be a PVC but wood texture, so it looks like wood. You know, it makes it look nicer, more traditional to the type of establishment.
And now the pergola would be over the awning on that side on the front of the building. Excuse me.
Not to the front, so it's only in this piece. There's a small awnings over the doors, but yeah, it is over that.
So the awning would be over the door. It wouldn't be under the pergola as well. Okay. And is there a reason why the pergola would be angled? I see how it's angled here, but it's usually not.
slightly angled, but it's not. It's really flat in a sense.
Any other questions by our board members at this time? Okay. Our professionals, any questions for the witness?
Do the slats on the pergola, are they fixed or are they movable for shade purposes?
No, they're fixed.
They're fixed, so it's not going to provide any coverage from the elements. You know, it's like a.
Yeah, it provides a little shade when the sun.
A
is
little
over.
bit of shade, yeah, over the
Exactly.
slats, and it's
Yeah.
mostly just aesthetic for
Exactly.
those purposes. Okay, thank you.
Just continuing with that, I mean, it seems like the building is going to face the west, right? And the sun sets in the west. How far apart are the slats going to be from one another?
Like 12 inches, 8 inches, and they'll be high, like foot high. So they'll provide some shade in there. I mean, of course, once the sun is direct like this, you're going to have the issue with the sun. It moves also
Right,
this way too.
right.
But also aesthetically, it makes it nicer because right now you only have like a brick box. Right. So it has some function with the shade, but also it makes it aesthetically better, especially for the front. This is the main street.
Now, there are some, and I don't know if you'd know the answer to this, but there are like some cloths that you can kind of weave through the slats to kind of really provide shade when it gets really, really hot, especially in the noon and afternoon in the summer, when people will probably be eating lunch and early dinners. I mean, do you have any idea if there's going to be any intention to do that?
When you come up, you can
There.
get
I'll
He gave me the sign, so yeah, we can provide that. Yes, to provide additional shade during the summer months.
Okay. Any other questions at this time? Any other questions from our professionals? Any members of the public have any questions for this witness? None. Okay.
Thank you.
Witness.
Thanks, Ivana. I'd now like to call upon the applicant owner, Dominic Glynn.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, give us your business address.
Dominic Glynn, Glynn. The business address is 905 Mountain Avenue.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Mr. Glynn, I heard my opening. You've now purchased this property?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us, I guess, first a little bit about your involvement in Beach Taco and then what drew you to this location.
Okay. I originally started off at a location on the boardwalk in Seaside. It's on the boardwalk. I was lucky enough to acquire it after Sandy. And it just took off. It's a family spot. You know, if you could look it up on the website. It's nothing that I want to do here. I want to do a little more classier here because I live a few blocks away. But it's a little more abstract down the shore because it's, you know, I'm attracting families. So the colors are bright. You know, there's figurines and whatever. But the whole concept of the food is what I want to bring here. It's fresh food. I'm not going to talk about any other similar restaurant like that's on 22. But we cut and prepare everything on our premises. We make our guacamole, we prepare the gallo, we marinate all our meats. Everything's done on premises. So it took off really well for us on the boardwalk. I live 3 blocks away from this location. I've been there 18 years now. My son goes to school in Springfield. So I just thought it was an ideal spot for another location. So I jumped the gun thinking it would be, you know, 1, 2, 3, but to buy the property, but nevertheless, you know, I own it. So.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, there were some questions before. We know you've got some tables inside. Generally, your hours of operation?
Well, I mean, I don't foresee, because I'm from the area, you know, like Chaffee's and all those guys, they all close early. I don't see me staying past 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? There's no reason for it. I'm not Route 22. I don't want Route 22's traffic. It sounds crazy, but I want to keep it more family-oriented. I want to cater to Springfield, Mountainside, Westfield.
And we know you
I'm
have,
open to all customers, obviously, but
yeah.
I'm not looking to stay open late.
With the layout of the property, you've got 18 seats, 12 inside, 6 outside. I just want you to confirm, I believe we went over this, there's no heaters outside, no music, it's for seasonal seating outside?
Yeah, I mean, there was a patio space there before. It was just not to my standards. So I just figured I would like to expand that out, do a nice little brick paver instead of a sidewalk kind of thing. And then do like a nice cultured stone, little half a wall. Somebody sitting there, you still see people out there enjoying food. And then the whole pergola is just to classy up the place, you know? I mean, I love the concept. I would love to do some kind of barrier. They sell them for the pergola roofs, that in between them you could either put a corrugated plastic where the sun still comes through, so if somebody gets caught out in the rain, they don't have to come running in. That's one. Or a retractable awning, I believe you said, right?
Okay.
Somebody was mentioning something about a retractable shade.
And now deliveries, approximately how many deliveries would you get per week and what type of delivery vehicle?
I anticipate at least twice a week.
Okay. And that would be, I assume, by a smaller truck?
Yeah.
Not tractor trailer?
No. My boardwalk is very busy, and I've never seen a tractor trailer.
What time would the deliveries be?
They're usually early in the morning. They can't come during business hours. It's not easy.
Okay.
And what about trash pickup?
Just standard with all restaurants, you have a contract with a garbage removal company that would come in. They usually come in the wee hours of the morning before anybody even knows they're there. And it's usually one of those forklift ones that dump it right into the back of the truck. And then
Okay. And approximately number of employees?
I want to have 4 in the kitchen and maybe 2 in the front.
Okay. And there was a question before, I assume some of your business is also takeout, and I believe we talked about you don't have delivery vehicles, people would use apps.
No, this day and era is all about DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, all that stuff. So I'm not looking to do any of that. I don't want the responsibility of delivery. My other restaurant, we just have all the apps.
And there was a question with respect to the adequacy of the parking. We know that there's 2 criteria in Springfield, but under the square footage, do you feel that the parking, the layout, and I think you know that Marino's when it used to function there.
Yeah. I know Mike Marino. I know him personally. He worked out with the amount of tables he had in there, which it's not my concern, but there's about 20 tables in there, and they held 4 people each. So that was 80 people. And with 6 out on the patio. He made it work with the surrounding parking lot, with an understanding. I reached out to the owner and asked him, would there be a problem if I use the surrounding as an overflow? If somebody unintentionally uses it without getting permission, he says, Dom, you have my blessing, do whatever you want. It's all good. So I did try and get a little agreement on paper, and he says he would rather not.
Okay.
But he's not going to enforce it.
But from an operational standpoint, what you have on site and with delivery apps and the like, it'll function?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've used the tables.
Okay. And just confirm the aesthetics that were testified to Ivano as to the investment that you're making. We know you bought the property already as far as the aesthetics of the building and now bringing it ADA compliant?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions of Mr. Glenn at this time.
Thank you.
Your preparation model, is it a steam table model, or is it more of everything gets prepped in the kitchen?
No, everything's prepped in the kitchen. Yeah.
So it's not like a la carte burritos or anything?
No.
Okay. In the future, is there a possibility for more than 3 tables?
I would love it. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
I know the public's going to want it.
When do you foresee typical day employees would arrive?
My other restaurant is at 9:30 in the morning.
9:30 in the morning, but
They're cleaning.
but it's a different, the way you've explained it, it's a little bit of more of a
Well,
model.
I'm very tough when it comes to food preparation and stuff, so they all have to be there hours before we open.
Okay.
To be clear about the pergola, it says wood, but what do you intend to put there? Is it wood or is it like wood-colored PVC?
I don't like to do the cheap stuff. I want to do something really nice. I also don't, whatever the contractor suggests, like after we go over it, it has to look like natural wood, because I want to do that warm, comfortable, like rustic feel. So, but I don't want it to start peeling and breaking and cracking like regular wood. So whatever the new technology is now for pergola, that's what I'll have.
All right. And then in terms of, from a functional standpoint, facing the west, and I ask you this from experience, if you're sitting outside in the summer, eating lunch, you can't do let's say no retractable awning. I know that doesn't even work with a pergola necessarily. How do you plan on providing real shade when it's 95 degrees out?
A pergola is a long, like 2 by 12 or 2 by 8? Yeah. So when the sun hits it, it provides a vented shade. But I can also add either the corrugated plastic, which is, it'll look like a tinted of a brown underneath it. They sell them where it goes in between the pergola.
Right.
Like you wouldn't see it. All you're going to see is the pergola. So it'll definitely provide all the shade you want. And I have no problem doing that. And if it rains, they're protected too. I mean, unless it's like really windy. But it's a nice look. I wish I had a picture to show you. But in between the pergola and the support, there would be a corrugated roof.
Yeah.
Right inside, yeah.
Like rippled?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Like plastic. Right. You wouldn't see it. You'll see the corrugated roof, but if it rained, it would protect you from the water.
It would just have to have no gaps, no breaches in any way, shape, or
It would be a
form.
one-piece system all the way through.
And I know your engineer testified actually to a little landscaping. I didn't want to ask her because I think that's a better question for you, but what precisely do you plan on putting in front of the wall?
I do want to do some nice flowers and stuff, and there's going to be very low voltage accent lighting, because right now they got some, looks like a prison. There's like excuse my French, but it does. It's lit up and it looks horrible. I drive by it every night. It makes me crazy. So I'm going to take that one off the pole. I don't know who's paying for that, but there's a pole light that's a bright yellow that's lighting up the whole building. Now that I pointed it out, when you drive by, you'll see. It's not appealing. And I am going to accent light. It says on the plan, accent lighting around the entire building, low voltage accent lighting, and the wall. And to answer your question, yes, some small little grasses along it, to make it look nice. Put some color to it.
I was just going to address the fact that I'm glad you talked to the next door neighbor, because I envision people parking in the Echo Plaza lot, cutting through, and I could see disputes. You can't park here, and fighting and towing the cars and stuff.
Yep.
So I'm glad that you preempted that.
First thing I did, really nice guy, gave me his cell phone number. Have any problems, let me know. I reached out to him just saying, hey, maybe I can make them a little happy if we show them that we have an agreement. Because now, I don't want nothing from you, because apparently he's got a lot of properties. And he goes, look, I'm sushi open, I'll be over there to have some food, but he knows as well as I do, no one along Mountain Avenue or the side of my building ever parks there, even though nobody denied his nice gym. I mean, every time I go by, every day, there's nobody ever parking there. He said, use it, I don't care. You know what I mean? So I will go out of my way to make sure the parking lot's spotless and clean, and I'll do my part so I don't use that.
That was really my only concern.
Do you envision a more takeout heavy or dine-in heavy business?
Just like my place on the boardwalk, it's usually 75-25. I did want to provide some seating where people can go with the, and sit down with the kids and
So
go to a
75
soccer
takeout.
game or whatever. I
So
want
75 takeout, 25
Yeah.
dine-in
I'd like to do more. That all depends on
Sure.
seating.
Sure.
Will there be waitress service?
Um,
Or waiter service?
Yeah, I'm going to have someone that someone that works the counter. So if you're coming in, you're getting food, and you just want to grab a few tacos and sit down, you can do that. Or if you're coming in with your family, and you're, hey, is it all right if we can grab a table? Sure, and then we send somebody over and do that kind. So it'll be both, and everything obviously gets brought to the tables.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from our professionals?
You mentioned that you're going to utilize third-party delivery apps for some takeout options. Have you envisioned how they're going to circulate throughout the parking lot? Will there be a dedicated space for curbside pickup? Are there going to be procedures in place for these delivery apps to know where to go in the parking lot?
Yeah, so I have actually a sim situation with my location in Seaside, especially in the summer. Everybody knows the boardwalk's crazy. So what we do is we track when they're coming and when they're outside. We either bring it out to them, which like if they will come into our property, turn around in the back, and we'll catch them by the back door, and they can pull right out.
Okay, so there
There's a spot against the back of the building. I don't want to dedicate that towards just them because then it'll be a vacant spot.
Yeah.
They're literally in and out in a minute.
Of course, I just want to, the driveway is undersized right now as far as width, according to the ordinance requirements, so I want to just make sure that they're not going to pull up to the side of the building in a drive aisle.
Sign in the back,
Yeah, so there should be some sort of, procedure to enforce, safe circulation of those drivers. In regards to the parking arrangement, I understand that the gentleman next door doesn't want anything in place. I think that's up to the board's discretion to determine if that's adequate for the purposes of parking. But you did mention that there are 6 employees. I don't know if your employees generally utilize public transportation in something suburban like Springfield. I'm going to assume they're probably going to drive, maybe carpool, but that is a good chunk of the parking. So I would suggest maybe, if you do have a parking scheme and you are planning on utilizing the adjacent lot and are allowed to, maybe having your employees park in the adjacent lot so that these spots could be reserved for customers.
I was already planning on that.
Okay.
I already discussed with him there's a corporate side of the building.
Yes.
On the other side of it where the trees are. I said to him, I know this is a van that always parks there and there's never anybody using the back spots. Can they use those? Because then they could just walk in through the back. He said, just go right ahead. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that for the parking to work, there is, a pathway, a safe pathway, whether it's lit or there's nothing obstructing people from coming
There's
up
actually
through there.
existing pathways right now. I was just going to update them because they're just like slabs dropped on the ground. I was actually going to make it look nice and do like a brick paver.
Yeah, I think, as long as you get the permission, it's on your property or their property, but I think that would be helpful or encouraging as far as sharing the parking, that you have access to it, adequate access. I think that's all I have. Yeah.
I'll just add observationally, we've studied the parking there for when the dollar store came to the site and through COVID. There's ample parking adjacent there, as the applicant said. Nobody ever parks immediately there. To the west of the building in I'll call it where the office building is, there's actually at grade, I guess, a walking path so that the people could park on that side of the building and then access the front of this building. So that's been traditionally how, whether the employees or customers parked there and used it. I know Steve's been there at when it was Marino's. I've been there, and there was ample tables in there. It just was never sanctioned by any board to have inside dining, and it just had to morph over time. I'm sure it started with a couple tables, and it just grew and grew and grew. Then the outdoor component was added. During COVID, everybody went outdoors, and it was, approved by the governor and the state to do that. And Springfield has a outdoor cafe, but those were all granted relief from that standard during COVID. So Marino's operated outside and inside for a long time without any parking issue known to the township. It just was never sanctioned by a planning board or board of adjustment to have the indoor seating. It just happened. So, but there's ample spaces in the Echo Plaza lot. The office building is also part of that site. They're linked under one ownership. The office buildings in Mountainside, Romney Engineers, well, there's just never a parking problem at that location. So, if there is gentleman's agreement to use the parking, then it'll function. If they don't have that agreement, it won't function.
I have something that I just thought of. When you're coming out of that parking lot, people are coming off of Route 22. Do they all allow left-hand turns out of that lot? Is there any safety concern?
I don't think there's a left turn prohibition out of it. I think you can look left and see it. You know, the cars are coming from 22 and there's a good speed to it, but there's a bus stop just after that. So, I mean, if the bus was parked there, it'd be harder to actually go out looking from the cars actually coming west would be the problem if the bus was there. But I don't think there's ever been a prohibition there, and I'm not aware of any incident. Obviously, the police didn't comment on it that it was a problem.
There's ample vision to see down the ramp.
That's my question. When you come out of there, you can see left coming up.
That was one of my concerns.
Okay. Any members of the public have any questions? None. Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy.
Your next witness.
Great, thank you. I'd now like to call upon our last witness, our professional planner, Nicholas Graviano. He wants the podium.
Mr. Graviano, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name, state your last name, and give us your business.
Certainly, my first name is Nicholas with an H, last name Graviano, G-R-A-V as in Victor, I-A-N-O. I'm a planner and partner with Graviano and Gillis Architects and Planners with a business address of 101 Crawford's Corner Road in Holmdel, New York.
And Mr. Graviano, if you could please give the board the benefit of your work, educational experience, licenses you hold, and confirm that they're in full force and effect.
Certainly, I have a bachelor's degree from Rutgers University, a master's degree in city regional planning from Rutgers University, a law degree from the Temple University School of Law, a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey, also hold the AICP certification. I've testified before boards and governing bodies in 18 counties, over 100 municipalities, and I have been, qualified by the planning board of this municipality.
Your license is current?
Yes, it is, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Any objections to qualifying Mr. Graviano as a professional planner, expert in planning?
Okay.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Mr. Graviano, if you could please provide the board the justification for the relief being sought in this matter.
Certainly. I would just, before I get into my testimony, do some housekeeping with the exhibit that I distributed. This was not part of the application package.
We'll title that A2.
A2, thank you. Okay, the applicant is before you this evening requesting preliminary and final site plan approval, as well as a D3 conditional use variance and associated C variances, a few due to existing conditions on the site. A couple are proposed with this application. They are highlighted on the board planner's review letter. This does relate to a specific piece of property, otherwise known as 905 Mountain Avenue, known on the township tax maps as block 3901, lot 2. As A2 shows you, everybody's familiar with the site. I actually had been to Marino's numerous times. It is a roughly 10,000 square foot existing commercial building in the HC district. It is surrounded by Echo Plaza as well as the office building and other commercial uses. As Mr. Hale indicated, and as you heard in the engineering testimony, the restaurant use is a conditional use in the zone, and we're requesting the D3 variance for the lack of parking. As indicated on page 6 of the Harbor Review Letter, the existing nonconformities of the site relate to the minimum lot area, minimum lot width, lot depth, side yard setback, aisle width, and driveway width. All of those conditions are not being changed as part of this application. Certainly a strict application of the township zoning ordinance would create an undue hardship and practical difficulties to the developer with this application. The applicant also requires C variances that are created by this application, specifically, as you heard in the engineering testimony, for the front yard setback, the lot coverage, wall signs, and for the parking, which is essentially part of the D3 variance. So with the D3 variance, I don't have to tell you all, you spend a lot of time away from your family and friends doing this. The D3 variance is not of a strict standard as the D1 variance. What the applicant must demonstrate in this instance is that the conditional use variance could be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, nor substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. I would like to highlight, with respect to the positive criteria of the D3 variance, this applicant advances many of the purposes of zoning of the municipal land use law, specifically Purpose A, promotion of the public health, safety, general welfare, and morals, and that's done through four main categories. You heard in the engineering testimony that this applicant will provide current standards for ADA parking in the parking lot. That certainly advances the public health, safety, and general welfare. There is testimony regarding the improved drainage on the site. That is also an advancement of those items. It's also putting a vacant building into productive use. There's many nuisances that get generated from vacant buildings, from vandalism and other crimes. Having a productive use certainly advances the public health, safety, and morals of the community. Additionally, you saw the beautifully designed building with the roll-up windows. As this public health crisis that we've been battling for a couple of years have showed us, having the ability to have open air into restaurants certainly promotes the public health. It also advances Purpose G of the municipal land use law, sufficient space and appropriate location for a variety of commercial uses to meet the needs of New Jersey citizens. This site had a long history of retail, food, and restaurant usage. So it's certainly an appropriate location for that, as well as the fact that this is a permitted conditional use in the zoning ordinance. Lastly, it certainly advances Purpose I, the creation of a desirable visual environment and creative development techniques. And that's done through the facade enhancement and the other details that you saw in the building plans that help promote a desirable visual environment. I certainly feel that there is no substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance by granting this parking variance. It is a site that has operated without issue with a deficient amount of spaces as per code. Certainly, the applicant's 8 spaces can accommodate the business. Moving on to the C variances that are created by this application, they could be granted under the C2 criteria, where hardship need not be demonstrated. What must be demonstrated relates to a specific piece of property. Here you have a specific piece of property in a highway commercial zone being used for a commercial use. The purposes of zoning A, G, and I are also advanced with the granting of the C2 variances created by this application, and certainly they as well can be granted without substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time. Mr. Graviano?
Thank you. Any questions from our board? The professionals?
I know this question's probably not for Mr. Graviano. Thank you for your testimony. It dawned on me as you were going through the variances that I forgot to ask about the freestanding sign at the front of the property and what the plans are for that. So I apologize if this is not for you. Maybe it's for the operator or for the architect.
So the freestanding sign on the lawn part, is that what you're talking about?
Along Mountain Avenue, there's a monument, a sign on a post. It's a freestanding sign at the front
Yeah.
driveway.
I'd like to just modernize it. I'm going to use the existing structure, but just make it look nicer.
Okay. And it's going to continue to be the same. It's internally lit, I believe.
Yeah.
Internally lit. You're just
Well,
going to change the
his
raceway
was
on it.
internally lit, but it didn't work.
Okay.
So I'm going to just see what looks nice. I don't want it to look gaudy. I want it to have either gooseneck lighting or something that's,
Okay.
fits the vibe of the location.
Okay. I believe the freestanding sign is going to require an additional variance, correct?
Well,
The ordinance for the commercial zones is a little strange in that it says that a freestanding sign is permitted as long as there's a 50-foot front yard building setback. It's a little strange the way it's written. So the way I read it, the sign's already there, so it's pre-existing. It's going to be modified, but it's either pre-existing nonconformity or you can consider it a new variance just for the purposes of being conservative. I just want to make sure it's on the record that's part of this application. So it can be captured.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, as noted, this is an existing sign. The applicant's not going to increase the square footage of the sign. Certainly, I think that falls into the C1 criteria, whereas it's an existing condition, an exceptional situation affecting a specific piece of property. And the granting of the freestanding sign variance, I don't think causes a substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance or master plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Graviano, can you just put on the record for us what the exhibit that you distributed demonstrates?
Certainly. I think, sorry for not touching on that. One, I wanted to show the site in context of the surrounding Echo Plaza Shopping Center and the office building to show the commercial nature of the area, how a restaurant in this area certainly fits with the existing land uses. Additionally, I showed the past pictures of Marinos to show, certainly that Marinos was definitely a more intensive use that had a retail component as well as a substantially larger restaurant component, and certainly with respect to the applicant's site, the 8 spaces can accommodate the business.
Thank you. And can I just ask for clarification on the parking deficiency, square footage versus tables, seats?
right, so it's had 8 parking spaces there, which conform to the 1,400 square foot retail in the past. If you have 18 seats at 1 per 2.5, you're required 7 and change or 8 spaces. So for the 18 seats, it works from that standpoint. The dual standard is that when you have an indoor space like that isn't dedicated to seating perhaps, people could be standing there and the like. And so it's a 1 per 60 square foot. So if you take that roughly 1,400 square foot space divided by 60, you're going to get to 23 spaces required on the dual parking scale. So 23 or 8, you use the higher one, is 23. Existing, it's been 8.
Does the 18 seats account for employees? Is there something that's...
No, so there's, Mr. Disco's referring to the parking standard for restaurant is either or,
Okay.
whichever is greater. So you can either do it on square footage or on seats, whichever is greater. So there theoretically could be, like a counter space or something rather than seats, and then maybe the square footage would be less for a certain establishment. But in this case, it's saying the higher of the two, take the higher of the two to be more conservative. In this case, it creates a deficiency based on the square footage.
Got it. Thanks. Okay. Any other questions from the board members, or any questions for the board members? No. For the planner and members of the public, is there anyone present that have questions for our? Okay.
Thank you. First off, Alexander Kaiser, 62 Forest Drive, Apartment A.
Please raise your right hand.
you go.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
got sworn in. FYI, everybody, I think you all know I'm the mayor. First off, thank you. Welcome. I wish you luck in your application, but more importantly to the board, chairwoman, vice chairman, and the esteemed members of the board. I did not get a chance during my term as mayor to come before you, and guys, thank you for all your service this year, like I did every other board in the beginning of the year. So thank you all. I know you worked hard throughout the year in a quite difficult year to make it all work, and truly appreciate it from where I stand. You all do this as a volunteer position, and there is no thanks every single day that you do sit up here, and we appreciate all the time and effort you put into it and all the thought behind every application that you guys review. And it truly does take a village, and you guys make our village better every single day. So thank you for your service. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season, and with that, I'll let you guys go and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hale.
So we have no further witnesses. Obviously, the witnesses that have testified are here if there's further questions or comments that the board would like. And if there's no comments from the public, I can sum up because I don't think there's...
That would be great.
Okay. Again, just very briefly, we appreciate the board and board professionals' time and consideration this evening. As indicated, it's great having a local person purchase this property. I didn't handle the closing, so I would have told them, wait till you get your zoning approval. But it's great that Dominic invested in Springfield. It's a great adaptive reuse of this piece of property. He's upgrading it both from an aesthetic standpoint and ADA compliance, and I just think it's a win-win for everyone. And again, agreeing to comply with the terms and conditions of your board professionals is important too. So thank you again.
Thank you. I'm going to open it to the board.
I'd like to say that I think this is a nice improvement to the building, and I think that the design is nice, and I am happy to see somebody from town opening up a business in town. And so I would be in support of this application.
I just really hope the food's going to be good.
Motion?
Second.
Madam Chair, if I may, I think there's two.
Mike.
There are two conditions.
Well, there's two things I think you got to have a mechanism. I heard some people talking about a quasi roof or some sort of shelter. So there should be a mechanism by whether you want them to come back for that. I don't think it's necessary. I think the professionals can handle that for you in some way. Just want to put on the record, if it's a permanent roof, it becomes building coverage, probably going to be a variance. So the mechanisms I heard discussed tonight sound to me like they're not permanent roofs, and I think we can manage them. So that should be one thing that the board should just contemplate how you want to handle. The second thing, I think one or two mentioned, what if the seating is to grow? And I think that there has to be some directions to what happens in that regard if you're looking at an affirmative motion to vote on that. Whether that comes back to this board, TRC handles that, or whether there's another mechanism. So there has to be some thought about that. Because I think that is likely to happen if you approve this.
And certainly, didn't want to complicate the application with my suggestions about the pergola. I just have some experience with it. But really, to alleviate a lot of the issues, especially for usage, do whatever you want with it as long as it's authorized and appropriate. But it could just be a cloth that just attaches by Velcro and just weaves that you could take up and down. But
I would suggest that maybe, not to do it on the fly, that the resolution include that a condition that the applicant will work with the board's professionals to provide some sort of mock-up or even just like the model that they're, proposing to use so that we can improve it. And I think that would be useful.
That works.
Yes.
That's one thing. What, did I miss the second one?
Seating.
The seating.
Yeah, thank you.
Contemplating an affirmative here, then I think you have to realize that there's probably going to be a desire to add more seating in the future if it works, if the site works.
Mr. Poltrock, can you amend your motion to?
Oh, I believe, sorry. There was a mention, right, about directional signs for the like pickup, the delivery. How can we?
It's not something that I think I was attempting to impose on the applicant. It was more so like, I guess, and it's up to the board if they want that or not, but really, is there a circulation plan in place for the delivery drivers? And does the board feel it's necessary to have like a dedicated pickup space? I think the condition should really be that pickups cannot happen in the drive aisle. So maybe we include that in the resolution that, any deliveries or pickups will not happen during business hours in the main drive aisle to the site.
Okay, number 2. And now seating.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Then third condition is if there's additional seating, it'll be handled at a TRC.
Okay.
Bruce, you got those?
Yep.
Okay.
I will make an amended motion based on everything you just said.
Second.
Mr. Poltrock?
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chair Lawfer?
Absolutely.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein? Yes. Mr. Furstenbaum?
Yes.
Mr. Sahada?
Yes.
And Chair Cohen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And I do just want to say on the record, because the motion was made before I could say anything, but I do think this is a great improvement to what is a vacant area, so we appreciate your investment in the town.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Yo.
All in favor? Yes?
Aye.
Great.